This
Myself,
conference will now be recorded.
I have it in my.
Okay, great. Yeah, sure. You shared it. So you said you tried with CentOS also, but still same in worker node it is not showing, right?
Yes, Amar.
Mm, okay. Actually, even like this is the first time I'm facing this kind of issue. I don't know. So share
Mm-hmm.
your screen. But anyway, it's not a showstopper. Okay,
Sure.
we'll see that. I don't know what is the reason, like why it is showing something like this. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so no problem. Yeah, open your putty session. We'll see in COPS method also. Maybe that time we'll see that.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me. Can you please open your print session?
Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, as I told, master server will be there. Okay, na? And your worker nodes will be there. Number of worker nodes. So here, how you are creating your container, guys? Your application. So kubectl create deployment name hyphen image equals to httpd or jenkins, whatever it might be. So guys, what is deployment? As I told, what is deployment? Deployment is a configuration kind of, so it's kind of manager for your pod. Okay na? So what is your pod, guys? A pod is nothing but a logical virtual machine. Okay na? Logical virtual machine. So inside your pod, our container gets created. Okay na? So in container my application is available. So why like this? Why this additional setup? Okay na? So why not direct container? Means, as I told already, in Docker we have some challenges. So Docker does not support like high availability, auto scaling, load balancer. So these things and all. Just a minute. Yeah. Okay. So here in Docker already I told you we have some challenges. So we cannot maintain the replicas. Okay, we don't have auto scaling concept. We don't have load balancer concept. Those are techniques, guys. We'll discuss about that. So here, okay. So when I create a deployment in master, okay, deployment is kind of configuration for your pod. Okay, na? So then inside a pod, container will be there. So pod is a logical virtual machine, and inside that logical virtual machine, you have the pod. In sorry, you have the container. So in that container, you have the application. Oh, this is the just basic structure. Here, guys, the pod is available logically, as I told, physically not available. If you log into the worker node, only container is visible. Normal Docker host, if I log into the worker node, there is no Kubernetes commands. Normal Docker commands only you can work. Okay, na? But when I see from master point of view, the pod will be available. మీకు వర్కర్ నోడ్ లోకి లాగిన్ అయితే పాడ్ ఉండదు. సో జస్ట్ like master assumes, so master will treat like pod is there, inside that container is available. సో master నుంచి చూసినప్పుడు అది కనిపిస్తుంది. Okay, now when you see from master, you can see the pod. Inside pod, container will be there. But if I log into worker node, pod, there is no pod. Only container is visible. Okay, na? So here, like until this deployment is available, the pod will be available. If you delete this pod, again it will be recreated, guys. The container also, the pod also. kubectl First of all, get nodes will show you, okay, how many master and worker nodes you have in this particular cluster. So kubectl get deployments. So for my application, so the deployment is running or not. So one by one means one pod should be there. Yes, one is running. Out of one pod is there. It's running up to, okay. Here for additional options, guys, -o wide will show you additional information for every resource. Like even for nodes also I can use this option. Okay, na? In the same way, even for pods also, kubectl get pods -o wide. So it will show you clear information. So in which worker node you have the pod. Okay, see, as of now I have one deployment. So there, this is the deployment. Okay, in worker node 1 I have. It seems like he has different namespaces. So maybe we'll come to that namespace. That's the reason it's not showing there here. What is
Sir, what is
namespace in
that wide?
which one?
Wide.
Just additional option. If I don't give wide option, okay, less information you will get. Okay, so if I give -o wide, you will get additional configuration, additional information for each deployment, for each resource. See, here you are getting additionally the IP of the pod, so where it is running. Okay, na. So again, nominated node, where it should be run. So that kind of information. So, but if I run without -o wide, it will show less information. That is what -o wide. Okay. Now, okay, my pod is running. Now, how to access this pod? Okay, before that, let me delete my pod. kubectl delete pod name. If I delete like this, again it will come back, guys. See, again one more pod is getting created. See, and with new ID. Earlier it was HNF9C, right? Now it is 4x881. So immediately, because my deployment is there, until the deployment is there, the pod will be available. The container will be available. High availability, guys. It never goes down. If at all like something problem with container or pod or worker node, so again deployment will try to recreate it. So how many worker nodes I have? 2 or 3 or 4 or in one of the worker node it will create. It will be created. Okay, na. So it never goes down. Even we can maintain the replicas, guys. Example, let me show you. kubectl scale deployment. My deployment name. Okay, so -hyphen replicas equals to maybe 3. Example. Already one is there, right? Now it will create 2 more. So why replicas required? Okay, na. So for same application, for same deployment, why replicas? Why 3 parts required? Maybe guys, in real time, high availability is very, very important. So what is replica means? Okay, an example, I created one deployment. Okay, na. So for the same deployment, if I create 2 replicas, means 2 parts. Okay, na. Same data. Whatever here you have, here also you have same website. Then why 2 containers? Why 2 parts? Because for high availability, guys, if one part down also, still other part will be available. The like application, the customer never feels the application is down. So guys, anytime have you seen the Google is down, Facebook down? Yeah, recently happened, but that's not a server issue, something network related issue. Okay, na. So Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, these are very, very critical applications. So example, in my container, I'm running my YouTube application. So it should not go down. If only one replica, okay, na. Example, this worker node down. Of course, my replica will come here, but still, by that time, until it comes here, there is downtime, right? Even that downtime also should not be there. So if I maintain replicas, replicas means same as it is, makki to makki, a copy of the like same code. Here, whatever you have, here also you have same website. Now then, to which container the customer will connect? That is where load balancer comes into picture. There is a technique called load balancer. Okay, na. So in Kubernetes also we have that technique. By using that load balancer technique in Kubernetes, okay, na. So we will create one load balancer. You will get one URL, common URL for both of them. So to that URL, customer will connect. So in that load balancer, how many replicas you have? So which replica is healthy or maybe with less load? To that replica, the request will go. So in that way, you are getting high availability, guys. Performance also good. Okay, na. So you will maintain number of replicas, not one or two. If it is a critical application, okay, na. So guys, if it is a critical application, you will maintain number of replicas, 10, 20, 30, 50, something like that. Okay, na. So that is what we are going to create load balancer for our applications, for our replicas. Okay, na. So high availability will be there. If I go high availability plus performance also, because we have number of servers, number of containers. In which container less load is there? From that I will get the request customer. So okay, na. So that is what. Now how to create this load balancer? As I told. Okay, now I have replicas. Okay, now I have, where is that server? I have 3 replicas for same deploy. You can see the name, guys. Dep1. Okay, so here you have the like 3 replicas for same deployment. Now, which is running in different worker nodes. How can I know that? -o wide. See, so 2 pods running in worker node 1, 2 replicas running in worker node 1, and 1 replica running in worker node 2. So definitely, like my application running in now 2 different worker nodes. So how customer will connect? So individually we don't connect. We will go with load balancer technique. If you set up the load balancers, okay, na. If you set up load balancer for your application, for your container, so you will get common URL. So for that purpose, we use service. Okay, now we use by using service command, kubectl. So can you please open the notepad once? It is a logical virtual machine, and inside that container application will be there. Okay, now service. To expose the application, to the external world, we use service. There are three types of services available: cluster IP, node port, load balancer. Okay, na? So we can create service in three ways. There are three types of services available. One is cluster IP. Internally, if you want to expose between within the cluster, okay na? Within the cluster application expose cheyalante we use cluster IP, node port. So as I told, how many worker nodes I have? 2 or 3. And how many replicas I have? Again 2 or 3. So guys, generally we don't use node port. What is node port means? If it is something like our internal application, not for customer. Example, Jenkins I am running in my worker node, in my Kubernetes. Okay, na? So I know all my worker node information because I am the admin, right? I am not a customer. I am the DevOps admin in my project. So Jenkins is my application only. It's not for customer purpose. Okay, na? So I am running Jenkins in my Kubernetes. So I know how many worker nodes I have, in which worker node my pod is running, my Jenkins pod is running. I know that. So I can go with node port, because here if I know worker node IP, maybe let me change the statement. By using worker node IP, we can access our respected replica or pod. Guys, that means here if I know, example, I am the DevOps admin and the deployment is my deployment only, Jenkins. It is not for customer. So I know how many replicas I have and which replica running in which worker node. So that information I know already. Okay, now. So I will create a service with node port, guys. Okay, now. So with service with node port. So because I know the worker node IP, with worker node IP, I can access my replica. Means this worker node IP colon the port number of the worker node. So I can access this replica. And if I want to access this replica, this okay application from this replica means worker node IP colon the port number of the worker node. So I will be connected to this replica. So explicitly I have to connect to that particular replica. So generally we use it for internal application. Okay, now my own application, not for customer purpose. We don't use this for okay. So why? Because you have multiple worker nodes. So which IP we will give it to customer? Which IP we will map it with our domain? Yes or no? So generally Amar.com, that Amar.com should map with one IP only. But here three IPs I have, three worker nodes I have. Which worker node IP address I will map it with Amar.com? So I don't go with node port, guys. I'll go with load balancer, because here worker node IP is not required. Okay, na. So you'll get common URL. With that common URL, you will access your application. Okay, na. So that is the load balancer is one of the technique. high availability technique. Guys, in AWS also we have this load balancer technique. In here in Kubernetes also we have this load balancer technique. So in AWS, EC2, like for multiple EC2 instances, we can set up the load balancer. But here in Kubernetes, for multiple containers, we are setting up the load balancers for multiple parts. Okay, na? We can expose the application to the external world. Okay, now if I create a service load balancer, you will get one external URL, load balancer URL. With that URL, will connect with customer will connect to on my application. So that load balancer has the information in which worker node my replica is running. So it will connect to one of the replica, whichever is healthy, whichever has very less load. Okay, now that is what load balancer technique. Now how to create service? kubectl expose deployment name kubectl expose deployment name hyphen type equals to. So which type of service you want to build? Node port, cluster IP, load balancer. So first I will show with node port. So guys, in Docker, generally how many ports involved in Docker? Example, this is my Docker host. And here this is my container. How many ports involved? Docker lo any ports untai?
Two, sir. Container port, host port.
Host port, container port.
Port.
So 2 ports involved. Here in Kubernetes, 3 ports involved, guys. One is host port. We call it as worker node port, guys. So in Docker, we call it as Docker host. So this is Docker host port. In Kubernetes, it is worker node. So it is worker node port. Okay, na? One more is pod port. So 2 ports. So here container port, here pod port. What is one more port means? Service also, it's one more a logical virtual machine, guys. Okay, na? Service also one of the logical virtual machine. For దీనికి కూడా ఒక పోర్ట్ ఉంటది. ఓకేనా? Service is one of the logical machine again, virtual machine. So whenever you create a node port or load balancer or cluster IP, one service instance will be created. Service it is a one logical virtual machine again. దానికి కూడా ఒక పోర్ట్ ఉంటది, సర్వీస్ పోర్ట్ ఉంటది ఇక్కడ. సో హియర్ we call it as worker node port, target port, port. Total 3 ports involved, guys. Port is nothing but service port. Target port is nothing but pod port. Worker node port means this one. Okay, na 3 ports involved ayi untai while creating service. Hyphen port equals to This is service port, guys. You can give any number. It's up to you. There is no condition. Okay, na? Hyphen target hyphen port. What is target port as I told? What is target port?
Container port.
So container port should be based on application, right? Always same in Docker also. So if it is application HTTPD, 80 is the port number. Okay. Next, hyphen node port. Guys, actually here, as I told, worker node port also like we have to give, but if we don't give also, automatically it will take. So there is a range like 30,000 to 32,700. So worker node port will be from this range. Even if you don't give, one of the worker node port will be assigned automatically. So this is the way I will create the service, guys. Now let's create a service for my deployment. Which one I have to select? Can you open master one? So kubectl, I'm creating service now, guys. Kubectl expose deployment name hyphen type equals to. Okay, now you, as I told, 3 types. What is cluster IP? Cluster IP for internal. Within the cluster, if you want to expose the application. Okay, now we use cluster IP. Node port means this is also, it will export the application to outside, but you have to know worker node IP addresses. Generally, we don't give worker node IP address to customers, right? We don't create node port. If at all it is customer application, compulsory we'll go with load balancer only. Hyphen type equals to node port. Hyphen port equal. What is port, guys? What is port here?
It is for service port, sir.
Exactly. Port is nothing but service port. I can give anything. Maybe same as target port. What is target port here? The container port, the pod port. Pod ante container annate ikkada. So whichever application running. So HTTPD application I am running. So 80. Okay na? Now kubectl get service. See, for your deployment, a service is created. Node port type is created, and this is worker node port. I told you, right? If you don't give worker node port here, okay na, it will take from 30,000 to 32,700. One of the port will be assigned. A port assigned in worker node, for worker node 31,865. Guys, 31,865 port number is allocated for your worker nodes, for all worker nodes. Okay na? Now we are ready to access the applications. Yeah, can you go to AWS console? For worker nodes, open this 31,865. I hope you are using the same security group for both of them. You launched it in one shot, right?
Yes, Amar.
Open 31,000. Check that. At 31,865, right?
Yes.
Now get the worker node IP.
Let me check for
Any
this
worker
one.
node. In both the worker nodes, I have my replicas, right?
Yeah.
You can take any worker node. Go to browser. Colon worker node port number. Yeah, see. You can try in other worker node also because we have replicas in both the worker nodes. Colon 31,865, right?
Yes.
In both the worker nodes, I have the same application now, same replica.
Yes.
But like this, we don't use multiple IP address, right? We don't provide this like multiple IP address to customer, multiple URLs. Yes sir, ఒకటే URL ఇస్తాం మన వెబ్సైట్ కి. అవునా కదా?
Sir, I have one doubt, sir.
Yes.
యాక్చువల్గా లాస్ట్ AWS క్లాస్ చెప్పేటప్పుడు మీరు ఒక ఎగ్జాంపుల్ తీసుకున్నారు లోడ్ బ్యాలెన్సింగ్కి. ఫ్లిప్కార్ట్ అనే ఒక వెబ్సైట్ తీసుకుంటే కస్టమర్స్ ఎక్కడి నుంచి అయినా యాక్సెస్ చేయొచ్చు. సో అప్పుడు ఏమైందంటే సెవరల్ ఐపీస్ నుంచి యాక్సెస్ చేస్తారు ఫ్లిప్కార్ట్.com అనే అడ్రస్ని. అలాంటప్పుడు ఎవరెవరు ఐపీస్ అవన్నీ ఒక డిఎన్ఎస్కి వెళ్ళిద్ది అని చెప్పారు సార్. అది అప్పుడు డిఎన్ఎస్ అనేది మన దగ్గర ఏదైతే అంటే కంటైనర్స్ ఎన్ని కంటైనర్స్ లో అయితే రన్ చేస్తామో అది అసైన్ చేసిద్ది అని చెప్పారు. అది అంతేనా సార్?
నో, మేబీ మీరు మిస్టేక్. ఇక్కడ ఎలా ఉంటుంది అంటే వాట్ విల్ హ్యాపెన్ జనరల్ సినారియో ఐఎమ్ టెలింగ్ యూ. whenever I opened, it doesn't matter, I'm not talking about containers, I'm not talking about a normal website. Okay na, అది EC2 na, normal your on premises server or else container, I'm not talking about that. What I am talking here, okay, whenever I open any website, example icicibank.com, so what is happening means here, like when I take an internet connection in to my home, I will get DNS settings also. Okay na, I will get DNS settings also. So who is managing this DNS means there are some third party providers like GoDaddy. Okay na, so there are so many vendors available. Even in AWS also we have one Route 53 service. So there also you can, it's a paid service, not free of cost. Okay na, so generally for our servers, okay, example I have one EC2 instance, normal, let's take normal EC2 instance. Okay na, so maybe you want to make high availability, so for that purpose in both the EC2 instance my application is running. So with the load balancer technique, okay na, I made a group, logical group, and now I got one URL, one DNS name. Actually it's not with my own DNS name, something like amar.com, pradeep.com ala raadu DNS name, something AWS related DNS name I will get. Okay na, for this application. Okay, so when I use AWS load balancer, then that URL I will go to one of the DNS domain manager like GoDaddy or else Route 53. Okay na, there I will register this URL, load balancer URL with my domain name amar.com, icsabank.com, something like that. Okay, na. So this is GoDaddy server example, or maybe the DNS server. So when customer hit amar.com or icsabank.com, this is my laptop. Okay, na. When Amar hit amar.com or facebook.com or icsabank.com, so in my home, when I take internet connection, I have DNS settings also. This server details also, DNS server details also, I have in my laptop now. So when I type icsabank.com in my laptop, so first it will connect to that DNS server, not to the our actual server directly. First it will connect to our DNS server. Here I will get the IP address of the my website, my EC2 instance, or my load balancer URL, or that load balancer URL network I will get. Okay, na? So once I get that information, now my server will connect to my load balancer URL. Okay, na? So now I got that information, right? So this domain is mapped with URL or which IP address. So it will connect to my load balancer, and my load balancer will divert the traffic to one of the EC2 instance. From there, you will get the traffic, you will get the page to your customer. That is what happening. Here also same concept. Here instead of EC2 instance, so I have two EC2 instance. In one EC2 instance, I have one container, and in one more EC2 instance, I have one more container. So between the containers or between the pods, I'm creating the load balancer now. Okay, now. So I'll get a common URL now for these pods also. So that is also again AWS URL now, because our servers are AWS EC2 instances, right? So if you create a load balancer in Kubernetes, it will create a external load balancer in AWS also. Okay, na. So that domain, that URL, we will map it with our DNS in GoDaddy or Route 53. So when customer hit that GoDaddy, that URL, it will connect to AWS URL first, DNS. From there, it will come to your Kubernetes load balancer, and it knows the information, how many replicas you have. For one of the replica, it will connect, and the traffic will be, the web page will be visible to the customer. That is what that is how load balancer works. Did you understand?
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
Now here, as I told, what I showed is node port, guys. Even we don't use node port. Why? Because here, if I have 5 worker nodes, 5 worker node IP address, I should know that. With IP addresses, I'm accessing my website. So which replicas? Generally, we use node port only for internal application. Guys, internal application means, example, Jenkins. Is it customer based or DevOps admin related? DevOps admin related. So if I maintaining Jenkins in my Kubernetes, so then I can go with node port. I no need to go with load balancer, because I know the worker nodes IP address. But for customer purpose, we go with load balancer. But in KubeADM, there is some challenge. Let me delete. So how to delete a service, guys? Already I showed just now how to delete a pod. Same commands, guys. Only resource name will be deleted, changed. Delete service. Service. What is my service name? F1. Here service name is same, right? F1.
Amar, you're not audible.
Is it for everybody?
Yes, Amar. Now you came.
Now, okay, sir. It's
Yeah.
audible.
Okay, now I'm going to create load balancer type. So node port, did you understand node port concept, guys? What is node port service and how to access the application?
So node port is within the organization because we know the worker IPs, right?
Sir, your voice is not audible.
Yes, Amar. We can't hear you. We still can't hear you, Amar.
Guys, are able
Yes,
to hear
Amar.
me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So as I told, once you create the deployment to expose the application to the external world, we will create the service. In service, three types available. First type is cluster IP. It is internally within the cluster, generally for databases and the backend applications. We use cluster IP because those are not exposed to the external world. Only for web application. Okay, so those microservices should be accessible. So that time we use cluster IP. And when it comes to node port, example, I have my internal application like Jenkins. That is DevOps admin tool, not for customer purpose. Okay, so in that case, I will create node port type. Why? Because I know the worker node IP addresses. So in which worker node my pod is there and all, I can check and I can connect with worker node IP. Okay, just a minute. Yeah. Then the one more option is load balancer. Okay. So what is load balancer? As I told, it doesn't matter in which worker node, how many replicas running, how many copies we have. You will get common URL. Okay, na. So, but in Kubernetes, in kubeadm method, how it will get that IP, that URL? It should be accessible from outside also, that IP or that URL. So two ways are there. One is for kubeadm, you should set up the communication from Kubernetes cluster to AWS. So you have to set up Cloud Controller Manager for that. You have to install Cloud Controller Manager. So it's very big task. Okay, now so that Kubernetes can talk to AWS when I create this load balancer. Just now, let me enter this. So it is not possible by default. Simply it will say pending. You will get an external URL. Okay, you have to get, but there is no way. By default, Kubernetes cluster cannot get the URL directly on its own. There are two ways. One is you have to set up cloud controller manager. Okay, na? Or else for this particular deployment, okay, now I have to create one public IP and assign it to this server. Again, that is also a big task. For every deployment, I have to do that. If I have 3 deployment here, 3 different applications, for 3 of them, I should do that individually. Okay, now. So that is the reason generally Kubedium we use it only for on-premises servers. Okay, now. If you are using on-premises, your own data center, first of all, you will talk to your IT admin, your network admin. He will give one public IP to you. That IP, you will assign it to this server. And then here, while creating the load balancer, I have to give this option, that IP address. Whatever the public IP, your network admin given, right? That IP. Okay? So, that IP will be assigned to your deployment, your load balancer. So, with that IP, I will map it with my domain name. Okay, now. So, again, these two are hectic works. So, now we are using cloud. It's not my on-premises. So, if it is on-premises, you have your own data center, then you go with Kubedium method. But if it is cloud, okay, now generally we don't go with Kubedium. We go with EKS or COPS method. Okay, now. So in tomorrow class, I will show you COPS method. So EKS also you can try, guys. So only setup difference. Once you set up, normal commands, everything is same. Even Kubedium, COPS method, EKS, everywhere commands are same. So only setup is different. What you will get additionally in COPS or EKS mean the cloud controller manager will be there by default. So for Kubernetes cluster, AWS communication will be there. So whenever I create this load balancer, automatically Kubernetes cluster will talk to AWS. Okay, in AWS, load balancer service is there. So it will create one load balancer there. And the same load balancer, it will be assigned to Kubernetes load balancer. Okay, now. So that is what we are going to do in tomorrow class. But as of now, did you understand what is service? Guys, what is service? Did you understand? What are the different types of services?
Cluster IP, node port, load balancer.
Exactly. So generally, cluster IP is for internal, not for internal, like application servers. Example, guys, here there will be 3 servers. One is website, one is application, one is database. Okay, now. So maybe example, you have icsabank.com. icsabank.com website. In the website, nothing will be there, guys. Only that web pages. Example, when I click on personal banking, it will connect to personal banking replica. Example, this is personal banking. You have one load balancer for this. Okay, now these are containers. Assume that these are application for personal banking. Personal banking deployment. Okay, we'll create replicas. Now, credit card. One more deployment. Okay, now. So this application servers, application container, customer directly won't access. Only you will access the website, guys. Customer accessing the website. This website accessing this personal banking, credit card, maybe loan. So those application server. So these containers are deployments or services. So we will go with cluster IP. And this website is the right website deployment. So
Load
that will
balance.
be with load balancer, external load balancer. Okay, now for this cluster IP is enough. Okay, now we don't expose with the service load balancer. Only internal from the cluster, the other pods can talk to this application. That is fine. Okay, na? Then node port means if it is Jenkins example, internal application. Okay, na? So customer doesn't need that. I know how many worker nodes I have, in which worker node I have my replica. So I'll go with node port type. If it is customer, compulsory I should go with load balancer. Okay, na? So in tomorrow class, I will show you the COPS method. One more method for COPS, for setting up the Kubernetes. Yeah. Okay then, guys. We'll meet tomorrow then with COPS method.
So you need the same setup tomorrow?
No, not required.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you don't need, I can terminate all the instances?
Yes, you can terminate. We'll set up
Ah,
new
okay, sure.
setup now.
New method. Okay.
COPS method. Yes.
Sure, Amar.
Okay. Yeah.